Good morning, children. Back again. Yes, it's reading time. Our story is Skunk Ladder. It was written by Patrick McManus. Okay? Last week we had a very important question, which is how can we find adventure? How can we find fun in our ordinary events? And if I say, for example, if you feel bored, if you suffered boredom, you can find adventure or fun out of the ordinary events, out of daily habits. Okay? For example, I said, remember, if your mother is bored because she washes the dishes every day, I said she can listen to music, she can have fun. So each one of us, you can find adventure in ordinary events. Here, guys, we have Patrick McManus, Crazy Eddie. They were also so bored and they wanted to find adventure in their ordinary events, okay? The two boys, Patrick McManus and Crazy Eddie, they were so bored and they were sitting on the corral fence. Corral fence, it's the fence of the farm. The fence of the farm. They were thinking of something to do. Of course, they were so bored, okay? Let's know, what will Patrick McManus and his friend Crazy Eddie do? Let's read and know, okay? So all of you open with me page 176, okay? Let's read.
My friend Crazy Eddie Muldoon and I were sitting on the Muldoon corral fence one summer afternoon trying to think of something to do. This was shortly after I had nearly drowned in the creek while testing Eddie's deep-sea diving apparatus, and after we had crashed in our homemade plane during takeoff from the roof of the Muldoon barn, and after our submarine had failed to surface with us in the pond, but before Mr. Muldoon started being treated by old Doc Mosby for a mysterious nervous condition.
Okay, let's stop. The two boys are so bored. Let's start with Patrick. What did Patrick say? Patrick said, I was about to drown. I was about to drown in the creek, in the river, stream, while testing Eddie's deep sea diving tool. Okay? Patrick, yes, of course he was too bored, but this is so dangerous. Patrick, he was about to lose his wife after he tasted Eddie's deep sea diving tool. Why all of this? Because he was so bored. Okay, secondly, yes, Patrick and Crazy Eddie, they crashed, or they were hit in their homemade plane. Homemade plane, yes. They crashed in their homemade plane while taking off from the Muldoon barn. So they flew from the Muldoon barn and they crashed into their homemade plane. It's also so dangerous. But all of this why? For one reason. They seek the adventure. They wanted to find, yes, adventure. Okay. After this, their submarine, this is the kind of ship which is used to dive at the bottom of the sea. Their submarine failed to surface with them in the pond. Pond is a kind of bay, small bay or lake. So Patrick McManus and Crazy Eddie, they were in a big danger. Why? Because they seek the adventure. They wanted to find the adventure. Patrick McManus, he was about to drown in the stream, in the river, while he was testing Eddie's deep sea diving tool. Apparatus here, it means tool, okay guys? Secondly, they both crashed in the homemade plane while testing off the Muldoon barn. They crashed in the plane, homemade plane, imagine, while taking off from the Muldoon barn. And finally their submarine failed to surface with them Imagine surfs, their submarine. It was at the bottom of the pond and it failed to come to the surface of the pond. So they were in a real danger, in a big danger. After this, guys, Eddie and Patrick, they saw Mr. Muldoon coming. He was nervous. He was in a mysterious nervous condition. Okay? He was so nervous, but Eddie and Patrick, they didn't know the reason because it was mysterious. It was mysterious. Let's read and know.
I recall mentioning to Eddie that his father seemed to be awfully jumpy that summer, and Eddie said he had noticed it too and wondered if it might not be caused by eating vegetables. Even as we sat on the fence, Mr. Muldoon came by on his tractor and stopped to study us suspiciously. "What are you two up to now?" he demanded. "Nothing, Pa," Crazy Eddie said. "Just trying to think of something to do."
Yes, Mr. Muldoon came suddenly as they were sitting on the fence. Corral fence. Mr. Muldoon came and he was too nervous and he asked the two boys, "What are you two up to now? What are you doing now?" "Nothing, but nothing. Just trying to think of something to do." Why? Because they were so bored. Let's go to page 177, okay? Mr. Muldoon shuddered, shaked, okay? Okay, guys, okay, boys, you have to tell me first before doing anything. Let's see.
Mr. Muldoon shuddered. "Well, when you think of it, you let me know before you start to do it, you hear?" "Sure, Pa," Eddie said. "I guess what we'll do is go dig in the dirt. We've been talking about doing that." "Okay," said Mr. Muldoon, shifting his tractor into gear. "Just don't..."
Okay, stop. What did Patrick Magnus and Eddie tell their dad? Tell Mr. Muldoon? They told him they were going to dig a hole in the dirt. They were going. I guess what we will do is go to dig in the dirt. They were going to dig a hole in the dirt. Okay? Mr. Muldoon said, "Okay, guys." And then he went to his car. Tractor.
"Don't build nothing." Then he drove off. "What kind of hole are we going to dig?" I asked Eddie. He stared off into space, his face enveloped in that dreamy expression that always accompanied one of his wondrous new ideas. "A big hole," he said. "A real big hole."
Patrick asked Eddie about the kind of hole they were going to dig. Any hole? Okay, Eddie said that they were going to dig a big hole. Not any hole, ordinary hole, no. It's a big hole. So guys, on page 177, we knew that Patrick Magnus and Eddie, they were going to dig a big hole, okay? And Dad, Mr. Muldoon, he didn't mind. On page 178, guys, we'll see that the two boys started digging, and digging the hole occupied the two boys for most a week. It took them a week to dig a hole, okay? Yes, and digging, it was so difficult. Why? It was so difficult because they had to know how big and how deep was the hole, because they wanted to dig a special hole. So they had to know how big and deep was the hole, okay? So they wanted to dig a special hole. Let's listen and see.
Digging the hole occupied us for most of a week. One of the problems with digging a big hole is that it is difficult to know when it is big enough and deep enough. There are basically two kinds of holes dug in the ground. One, applied holes, such as for posts, wells, mines, etc. And two, holes for holes' sake.
Okay, now here we see that the boys were talking about the kinds of holes. There are two kinds of holes. Applied holes, it means deep holes. which are used to put posts, wells, and mines. So, applied hole means deep holes, and holes for hole's sake. Or
Eventually, the hole was so deep we could barely heave
ordinary
shovelfuls of dirt.
holes. So we have applied holes and holes for the sake of holes. Deep holes or ordinary holes. Okay, guys? Let's read again.
Eddie and I were digging one of the latter. Eventually, the hole was so deep we could barely heave shovelfuls of dirt up over its sides. At that point, Eddie judged it to be finished.
Okay, after all of this, they found the hole was too deep after they took shovelfuls. Shovel, as you know, this is a digging tool, okay, which is used to take the dirt out of the hole. So they made a deep or a big hole. Why? Because they took a lot of shovelfuls, it means shovels full of dirt out of the hole. Why? To make the hole big, to make the hole deep. Okay?
Since Eddie had insisted that we keep the sides of the hole squared up, we had to pull ourselves out of it on a rope, one end of which was tied to a pile of stumps nearby. The stump pile also served to screen our...
Okay, guys, now the hole is deep, and Eddie wanted to make the sides of the hole squared up. Yes, this is the outside part of the hole. Eddie wanted to make it square. Now we have the final step. Now they are at the bottom of the hole and they wanted to pull themselves out of it. So they used a rope. They used rope and they used a pile of stumps, or they tied one end of the rope to a pile of stumps. A pile of stumps here, it means the bottom of parts of trees. Yes, guys, because they wanted to pull themselves out of this deep hole, so they tied the rope to a pile of stumps, bottom parts of trees. Okay, guys, now next page or next week we will see what will Patrick, Magnus, and Crazy Eddie do. Will they find fun? Will they find adventure or not? Thanks everyone and have a nice time.